Today what I'm trying to do here is make some more room for berries to grow in Berryland. So what that means is cutting down some trees, and today I'm taking on the biggest tree I've ever cut down, and so that's why I want to get some cameras out and record it. I'm going to put a camera in front of it and a camera behind it. What you see me here is setting up the camera in front of it, moving some branches out of the way there just so the camera has a clear shot of the tree I'm taking down. Unfortunately, you're never going to see any footage from that camera for whatever reason. I don't know what happened. I'm doing all this for nothing, moving all those branches out of the way and setting up the camera for nothing. It never recorded. Fortunately, the camera behind the tree that you're seeing now, it did record. I was really hoping to have both of them, show both of them in this video, but well, at least the one behind here worked. And so I do now have a 20-inch chainsaw, but the day I cut this down and recorded it, my largest chainsaw was a 16-inch saw, which is way too small for this tree. So the way I'm doing it is I'm just cutting out one little chunk at a time, and I'm throwing it out in the middle of the screen. You can see some chunks laying out there. I just keep throwing them out there. And look at this, Gray Girl is right up there on the tree I'm cutting down. The camera's kind of far away, like I said, because I wanted to get the whole tree in view. So Gray Girl's very little in this picture, so it might be hard to see her, but she's right there where I'm cutting with the saw, which, you know, I think that's very unusual, but actually Betty, Little Cat, and Gray Girl are just all so used to me using loud tools all day, all over the property, that they just, they can stand right next to a running lawnmower or chainsaw, and yeah, there you see, that's the pile I'm throwing all the little chunks in. That's the first chunk I've showed video of, but you can see there's already some laying there before I started recording. But yeah, what I was saying is they'll just stay right next to me when I'm using loud power tools and not mind at all, which I think is very unusual for a cat. In fact, right here, it's just the opposite. Check this out. Gray Girl is leaving, and she's just behaving normal while the saw is running, and then boom, as soon as the saw stops running and there's no noise, she's like, hey, what's that? How come there's no noise? And then as soon as I turn the saw back on, you notice she walks away like everything's okay again. And then now Betty sees I'm up to something out here in the yard, so she wants to come and check it out and see what's happening. And not far behind, like usual, is Little Cat. He's coming to check out what's going on also. So you're going to see Betty's going to go right up on top of the tree where Gray Girl was. And, well, you know, that's not unusual. They're usually near me. They follow me around. They kind of want to be involved in whatever I'm doing. But in addition to all that, there's just a whole bunch of sawdust up on top of that tree right now. And I think Gray Girl really enjoyed laying in it. And now you're going to see Betty she just sits there and lays in it for a while. She's actually lays in it for quite a bit, and I cut all that out. I didn't want you to have to watch Betty laying in the sawdust for 2 hours. And then here comes a wildcat, and Little Cat does not want to be around in this wildcat here. This cat you see in the lower right, I don't know who that cat is. That cat lives out in the woods. I don't have a name for it. But Little Cat did not want to be around when that cat was there. Betty, still up on the tree, didn't seem to mind at all. And I could pick her up and take her out of the tree, but I just waiting for her to leave. And then when she leaves, I'm going to get back to work on cutting the tree. And so finally she decides to get off the tree, and I'm coming back out to finish cutting. Like I said, I cut a lot of the video out. She was up there for a long time. Of course, I didn't want to show all that, but now that she's out of the tree, time to cut out some more little chunks and get back to work. And you're going to see, you know, I said Gray Girl and Betty like laying in the sawdust. You can see here how much there was. I just brushing off piles of it with my hand. That's how much that accumulated up there. I think that's I think they really enjoyed resting in it. But there's so much up there, it's actually in my way cutting it. Not only it's in my way, and I'm cutting so high, like I said, that I'm getting sawdust, in my hair, down my shirt, in my shoes. It's just going everywhere, so I was just trying to get rid of as much of it as I can. I hope that you don't mind all the noise in the background. What that is I always have a TV on out in the yard wherever I'm working. I just like to have something to listen to. As you can see, I'm not watching it. And there goes another chunk back into the pile. But yeah, I almost always have a TV on. I probably should have turned it off since I was recording today, but I'm just so used to having it on all the time, I kind of forgot it was even on. And you can see I'm taking off a layer there. It's just cutting the tree lower would have been easier, but I had to cut this one really high, and it was a lot tougher job, harder work holding the saw up high like that all the time. And while I'm taking my break to take a layer off, here comes Little Cat. Little Cat wants to see what's going on. He always seems, I don't know, somehow it seems like he always knows when I'm recording. He always seems to like to get in the shot. And then I put him back down, and I can tell he wants to go for a walk in the woods. We go for at least one walk in the woods just about every day, sometimes more. And I put him, when you saw me hold him there, I put him down, and I know that look on him. He wanted to go for a walk, so I was like, all right, Little Cat, go for a walk out in the woods, and I'll get back to cutting this tree when we get back from our walk. And what happened is this tree actually came down all by itself, as you're going to see here soon, when me and Little Cat were way out in the woods on our walk. It's been 10 minutes since I last had a saw in there, and we're way out in the woods, and it just comes down. Here's a slow motion of it. But me and Little Cat, we were out in the woods, and we really couldn't see it from where we were, but we definitely heard it. Little Cat's head popped up right away and looked at it, and so we kind of just decided to end our walk at that point and head back to the tree and see what it looked like. Of course, I knew what happened. I don't think Little Cat knew what happened. I don't think he knew what that noise was. And one thing I haven't mentioned until now is there was somebody in the house today, and I never told them I was cutting down this tree, and they just heard the noise. That's what the person in the house, what you're seeing now, is they're asking me, like, what happened? What was that huge noise?
They're also fitted onto each wagon or rail car. As free rolling units, the bogies are mobile compared to the chassis, thanks to a pivot placed in the centres. So as the train comes into a bend, the bogies move successively towards the centre, enabling the train to take the bend smoothly and with stability.
Yeah, the person in the house that was a really loud noise. I don't know how loud it comes through on the video, but the person in the house came out the door immediately, looking to see what that was. Well, there we go. Now I've got more room to grow berries in Berryland. That's all for this one. See ya.
That's all, folks.
La rivedere.